best I'm going to be able to do. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start off with a Terence McKenna mushroom rant. I just kind of felt like it was fitting, just, you know, given the title. So let's just go ahead and just start with Terence McKenna's best rant about mushrooms. Now, this is just in my own personal opinion, but this is, as far as mushrooms go, this is my number one favorite rant, lecture, or whatever else that he's ever done. So, enjoy.
You have to look at fungi. Fungi are primary decomposers. That means they can only live on decaying life. That suggests to me that they are late evolving, or at least not early evolving. Mushrooms are very soft-bodied, and so are all fungi. There is no record, no fossil record of a mushroom older than 40 million years. Well, that's a tiny fraction of the time life has been on the Earth. Now, when I asked a paleontologist about this, he said, well, they're soft-bodied and they don't fossilize easily. But hey, we have flatworms from the gunflint chert of South Africa. They're 4.3 billion years old. If they left a trace in the fossil record, you'd think there would be more of a trace of mushrooms. If you decondition your presupposition and just look at the mushroom, it looks...
Also, if the audio is too loud or not loud enough, just let me know. I don't have, like, OBS or anything to do any of this on. I mean, y'all know my situation. But if I need to turn the volume of Terence's audio up or down, just let me know.
Store them for long-term longevity. You seek an environment as much like outer space as you can find. You store them in liquid nitrogen at minus 200 degrees, and they will last virtually forever. If you look at the...
Yeah, actually, that is one thing that I found fascinating whenever I first learned that as well. That mushrooms are not only fit to be on Earth like humans, but they could survive space. Like, really think about how advanced of a being a mushroom really is. Because, I mean, for those of you who don't know, mushrooms are actually closer to mammals than they are to plants. In fact, the cap of a mushroom actually is constructed in a very, very similar way as the human brain, as the way that the human neural network is. Isn't that fascinating? Like, there's so many things that you could say whenever it comes to mushrooms. And that's one reason why I enjoy listening to Terence talk about them. I mean, the dude just goes on for hours and hours and hours and hours about mushrooms. But, like, once you really start digging into the research of mushrooms, you'll see that a lot of what he's saying is a lot deeper than most people give it credit for.
Stropharia cubensis spores, that's in the brown-gilled mushroom.
Actually, fun fact, the very, very first strain of psilocybin mushrooms that I personally ever consumed was penis envy. That's my favorite one right there. It's the most beautiful.
The spores are deep purple, almost black.
Again, if I need to turn up or down Terence or Terence's audio so that they're leveled correctly, just let me know.
Wave radiation. If you look at the spore, what is it? It's a packet of crystallized DNA. A single mature Stropharia cubensis mushroom, when it's sporulating, will shed up to 3 million spores a minute for up to 2 weeks. 3 million spores a minute for 2 weeks.
Is that more or less than regular
fish?
These
things are microscopic, so small that the perturbations and agitation of air molecules, which are called Brownian motion, can actually percolate these things into the outer atmosphere, where then energetic cosmic events can actually detach them from the terrestrial medium, and they slowly, like planetary dandruff or something, drift off into space. Well, I always it seems so obvious to me, maybe it's because I live in Hawaii, but the most predictable major revolution in biology that you can imagine is, of course, within a few years it will be realized that the Earth is an island. That's all. That the
Also, if y'all wanna, if y'all have y'all's own input, let me know. I don't want to be the only one reacting and commenting on everything. But I mean, if I am, I mean, y'all just gonna have to listen to me talk all day. So pick and choose.
that is present here, much of it probably drifted in cosmic
So
debris.
unfortunately, I won't be able to record today or live stream today after the next like couple or a few hours, because once it starts getting dark, ain't nothing I can do. So I just chose a decent time to do it.
When stars go supernova, planets are destroyed. It's a cliche of cosmic consciousness to say, you know, the atoms in your body were once in the hearts of distant stars. Well, if that's true, then some of
I actually remember this one dude that I grew up. He was kind of like a friend, kind of like an acquaintance, but I was around him quite often, and I remember like, cause like this, I had to have been like 14 years old, if not younger. So like this was a good like 14-ish years ago. But like he started talking about how, oh, we are made from stardust, and like I mean like everyone around him was just like kind of like, you're crazy. But like I had the understanding that he may have and was obviously onto something, because I remember being like super young, like 10, 11, 12 years old, and like I'm coming up like with all these interesting ideas about like science and reality, and I practically understood quantum physics before quantum physics even got popular. Not understood it, but I had a very deep insight into this thing that we didn't even really have like words for. So especially by the time that I was like 13, 14 years old, and I'm like talking about things like, oh, well, you know, if you think about it, I mean, really, reality in and of itself could be like this infinite multiverse, and like what we call dreams are actually realities, and just like going on and on and on and on and on like that, right? So I the fuck was I just talking about? Memory zap. Freaking cannabis, man. What was I talking about? I don't remember what I was talking about. Oh, I'll let y'all know if I remember what I was talking about, then we'll continue on from there.
the atoms in your body were once in a part of distant planets.
Right. Okay, so like, cause like he was talking about like some pretty deep stuff, and I was like, huh, you know, like everyone thought I was crazy whenever I started talking about how like down to an atomic level, if you go beyond the neutrons, protons, and electrons, like you're really just viewing waves, at least from our perspective. So I was always like, well, what if these are just waves of probability, you know, that are being constructed through an observer's observation and participation? But then, of course, people were like, oh, no, you're just crazy. And it's just like, am I really, though? Am I really? I guess that's a matter of opinion, isn't it?
Vanishingly small fraction may have been part of the biota of extraterrestrial.
But I did recently start looking into the "we are all made of stardust" thing. From what I understand so far, it does seem to go a lot deeper than most people give it credit for.
It appears to be, or there is a place, a perspective from which you can look at it, that it appears to be not an organism, but an artifact. It is incredibly well designed at a very high level of design criteria. For example, on this planet,
I love the way he put
one
that.
of the most advanced systems we've been able to evolve is Buddhism, which teaches vegetarianism. If a Buddhist could design their own genome, they would become a fungus, because a fungus is a primary decomposer. It's the only karmaless place in the entire food chain. There is no karma for the fungi. They don't destroy any life whatsoever. So,
I mean,
so here
certain
you have
ones
this
will
thing
kill you if you consume them,
designed
but yeah,
to traverse
420%.
extraterrestrial space, occupying a harmless niche in the ecosystem, and when complexed with a mammalian nervous system, a galactarian archive of historical data becomes accessible. We have only known about DNA since 1950, less than 50 years, and we're already confidently talking about completely redesigning the human genome and so forth and so on. Well, if we pursue along these lines for 500 years, we will look the way we want to look. And, trivially, we may all want to be Keanu Reeves or something, but once the cultural agenda cuts in, if, say, Buddhism took over in the presence of an advanced molecular genetics, then we could design ourselves into a karmaless niche in the universe. I wish that we could bring, I don't know who it is, but the content of the mushroom experience, which was what launched your question, is so evidently alien and non-human and self-referential to a world we don't know that...
Well, it's so alien that it's either not from around here, and I mean this planet, or it may be the oldest, if not one of the oldest things on this planet.
It would require a commission and several years of study to decide that this thing is not an extraterrestrial. Our notions of extraterrestrials to this point have been incredibly self-reflexive. Once you have fully in grasp the size of the universe and the amount of time that is available, then the idea that someone would come in a metal ship with an interest in your gross industrial output and a desire to cure cancer is absolutely preposterous. That's such a culture-bound notion. It's like expecting them to arrive with a load of pizzas ready for delivery. The trick is going to be to recognize the extraterrestrial. The very notion alien means unfamiliar. So it's not going to be like we think it is. The real task will be to recognize it. And we have discovered, after only 1,000 years, that toxic metal-based technologies are fatal. And we've pushed our entire planet into planetary crisis by coming to this realization rather late in the game. If long-term survival is the name of the game for intelligent life in the universe, then the way we're doing it is not the way to do it. It's going to have to be non-polluting, biologically based, molecularly based, so forth and so on. And as you run down the list, the mushroom begins to look more and more like the real thing. And then, of course, the content of the experience is so different from other psychedelics, and so it's so other.
If you have anything to add to the conversation, let me know in the comment box right there.
We've been at this now nearly 30 years, and we still don't have a consensus. I don't know what it is. Is it that when you take the mushroom, you lose all ability to then operate in the world of straight judgment and understanding? It's very puzzling, but I think probably the biota of the Earth is riddled with extraterrestrial genes, if not organisms, and possibly...
I mean, even if it's not true, there's a really high probability of it, yeah.
In your fetal tissue, or putting implants in you, or taking you up and slicing you up on in very large-scale surgical wards. I find all that paranoid and pathological. I can talk about that if you want, but it's not really our subject.
Alright, so let's go ahead and get on to another one. If y'all have any specific ones that y'all want to recommend, again, let me know in the chat box right there.
I believe,
I'm going through my own playlist here on the channel. Um, but if you are going to recommend one, don't let it be like 2 hours long. You know what I mean? Like I'm going through like ones that are like 10 to
You
20
know, you
minutes
have to
long.
look at some
Sometimes a little
jobs.
bit shorter, but mainly just 10 to 20 minutes. Whenever whenever I can use OBS and all that, and I have a better setup again, then we can actually like watch physical videos and stuff like his home video. You know what, let's do another one about mushrooms. This is just the classic Terence McKenna talks about shrooms video.
It changes for me all the time. I mean, I don't have a point of view, and my primary job is not.
You know, that is one thing that I think a lot of people don't really understand about Terence, is the fact that even the stuff that he talked about and the stuff that he believed in, he didn't really believe in it. It's like he believed in everything but believed in nothing. In fact, one thing that whenever the voice at Lachur had talked to him, whenever the voice had said, "You, because you've never believed in anything." It's pretty interesting whenever you really start digging into his psychology and understanding where he's coming from. It's almost like language is this playground. It can be so many more things than a playground, but it's like at its base, it is just this thing that we're dancing with each other with. So it's like telling a really good, it's like writing a really good book, telling a really good story. It's like what you're saying doesn't have to be true. It's just the conversation of all topics.
It changes for me all the time. I mean, I don't have a point of view, and my primary job is not public speaking or writing, but exploring. When I first started taking mushrooms and throughout the 70s, when we wrote the Mushroom Grower's Guide, I held several
I
opinions,
haven't
but my
read that
most
one yet,
strongly held
but I do eventually
opinion
want to get
was
around to experiencing
it
that book,
actually
even if it's just
is
through an audiobook
an
or something.
extraterrestrial. Just no shit,
I do love the
flat
audiobook
out,
for
it
True
is an
Hallucinations, though.
extraterrestrial.
That is a
And what's
great
surprising
audiobook.
to me is that a single mushroom trip of a certain sort could probably put me right back there again. Getting it worked down to Gaia or the overmind of the species is a kind of process of coming down from the real assimilatable context of the experience. It's like an extraterrestrial. I would certainly say this, if extraterrestrials appeared over Washington and Moscow tomorrow, it wouldn't make this any less mysterious or puzzling. In fact, the extraterrestrials might turn out to be mundane. This is not.
I'm not saying that the things like the Greys and the other human-like aliens are or aren't real. I mean, that'd be cool. Like, I'm not saying that there's nothing out there in, like, space, this infinite thing that goes on to infinity. Yeah, there's got to be something out there, right? But when we're talking about real aliens, real extraterrestrials, they're not going to come to you in that form. I guess they could for a little bit, but these beings aren't bound by third-dimensional space and time. They're literally like multi-dimensional entities. perhaps what Christians would call angels and demons, and every other religion and philosophy and whatnot has different perspectives on whatever that is, but it's all the same. So you're not dealing with like an alien that is just like, I come in peace. You're dealing with this being that it's almost like it can take any form that it wants to. Just something to think about.
How it speaks, this is the most astonishing thing for me.
The fact that it speaks to you in your language, yeah, that's fascinating.
Get used to. I mean, the visual hallucinations, somehow I can work it around that these are floods of imagery set off from deep structures of the brain and dumping of memory banks.
The hallucinations being made from a language app, that too.
In real time and say, Terence, you know, and then proceed to blow my mind. The only, and now several things may be happening here. The only time when we have the experience of focusing on an incoming message, decoding it in real time, and responding to it immediately is when we have a conversation with someone. So if you find yourself responding to a message in real time, your brain automatically thinks you're having a conversation, saying, you know, if it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, it must be a duck. So here I am listening and responding
but really, it's just
to someone speaking to me in
time.
English. Therefore, there must be a conversation. A slightly different argument that we see the mushroom as extraterrestrial is look at its style, for want of a better word. I mean, what is a mushroom? First of all, they reproduce by spores. Spores are the most economical biological unit imaginable. They can survive the radiation levels of interstellar space. They can survive for eons under conditions very close to those encountered in deep space. The mushroom spore falls into an ecosystem, immediately undergoes cell division. A fine thread-like network full of neurotransmitters begins to spread itself through the soil. It's very closely analogous to the neural network of a higher animal, including a human being. Now, we're accustomed to thinking that an extraterrestrial would bear the imprint of the evolutionary situation in which it
again, if y'all
came
want
to be.
like, if y'all have y'all's own input to put into the conversation, just so I'm not the only one talking, just let me know in the chat box right there. Until then, we're just going to listen to Terence. I'm going to put in my commentary where it should go, and we're just going to vibe and have a good time. I hope you're all having a good time here. I know I am. Well, not my personal life, but y'all know what I mean.
In other words, if it was evolved on a low-gravity planet, it will be tall and thin. If it evolved in a methane atmosphere, it will have an exotic body chemistry and so forth.
Lotus, I love your name. Lotus Jules Publishing. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, man, things are extremely fucking stressful. The last year have been the worst years of my life. But I'll get into that in a more personal live stream. Unless you already follow the channel, then you already know my story. Pretty messed up stuff. But yeah.
But that's because we ourselves have possessed the knowledge of how DNA works for only about 40 years. It's reasonable to assume, I think, that if an intelligent species gets 1,000 years of study of DNA, that they can design themselves to be however they care to be. And in fact, if you think of the mushroom from that point of view, I think that we might choose that kind of an adaptation if we could have any form.
And in a way,
we
if you think
wanted.
about it, I mean, we technically kind of are, just by simply doing things like, I don't know, wearing clothes, you know, like creating art, singing, expressing ourselves. I don't really know where I was going with that. I just talk sometimes.
Very humbly
I just speak out loud.
insinuates itself into a situation.
Because, like, that is actually one thing that I've noticed about a lot of people. Most people, like, they talk out loud all the time. Like, even whenever they're talking, just, like, in general. I'm not like that. I just say what's on my mind. Like, I don't have a in hear me and an out hear me. It's the exact same thing. I've noticed a lot of people don't have that, and it's frustrating to say the very least.
Potentially on waste material in the soil, yet when it sporulates, it can actually cross the boundary of outer space, and great economy.
Meanwhile, human beings gotta have entire suits. We gotta make sure everything's just right. gotta. The difference in evolution between mushrooms and Homo sapiens is absolutely absurd. They're just like, yep, already ready for space, let's do it. Alright.
Artistry, tremendous Zen-like aesthetics seem expressed in the mushroom.
Oh, yeah, I did cut that one a bit off. I mean, a bit too early, didn't I? It's fine, I'll eventually do an HD remake of it whenever I have a new setup and all that. I'm just going to HD remaster all of these. Though a couple of years ago, I mean, I did start doing 4K releases of, like, every video, or almost every video, but I'm doing the best with the limited technology that I have, the limited resources that I have left. Y'all want to see my freaking setup? Y'all want to know what it's like? Oh, no. You're not seeing it right. Yeah, no. This is all I'm left with. Over $100,000 into Valentine Productions just to get screwed over by a domestically abusive cunt.
Well, first of all, let me comment on the Buddhist thing.
I love this one.
Not that friendly to that.
But let's, hold on. There's another one that I wanted to put in right now. I'm trying to balance that. If you haven't seen the Zippies video, go check that out. Zippies on this channel. I can't find. Okay, so this one right here I find interesting, and there's a few things that I want to touch on. This one is called Mastering the Memory Palace Technique. So if y'all haven't checked this one out, certainly go check it out in its entirety without my commentary. But let's go ahead and watch this one real quick. It's only about 11 minutes long.
One of the insights that I've been reading different people this year, maybe you can tell, and one of the people I've been reading is Greg Egan, I talked about last year, but now I've read more. Now I've read Diaspora, and the ones where he makes no effort whatsoever to explain it to you unless you've already done your homework. And
again, if the audio is too loud on here, just let me know. I'll turn it down, try and level up the audio between my voice and his.
And all of that, and it reminded me of it. The thing that I'm coming to from my psychedelic experience and my life experience and the whole ball of wax is I said for many, many years that the world is made of language. That was just sort of one of my bumper stickers. But I think that there's a that carries some of the flavor of what I want to say there, but that there's more to it than that. It's that everything is code. Everything is code in.
This is such a stupid idea, and like I absolutely wouldn't implement it even if I had the copyrights to a Kingdom Hearts. But someone did put a funny comment. I'm sure they were just joking, but I had made a comment talking about, imagine if they really did go through with Goofy's death. For those of you who don't play Kingdom Hearts, then you're not going to understand. But for Kingdom Hearts fans out there, in Kingdom Hearts 2, imagine if they really did go through with Goofy's death, right? And I always thought that would be an interesting way to write Kingdom Hearts 2, because that would be unexpected as fuck, but would actually like be very impactful for the story. But then there were like, or someone had a comment below, and they were like, yeah, imagine, or I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, imagine if they did, and then his son Max eventually came into the story to fill in that role in a Source party. Like, that'd be an interesting way to go about it. I mean, I wouldn't put it in like any official Kingdom Hearts game, but I think that if someone took that seriously and actually like were very passionate about it, they could create an interesting fan fiction story about that. Like, that is one thing that I also like about cartoon and movie conspiracy theories, or like video game theories, because it's like, yeah, most of this is not true, but imagine if it was. Now let's write some fan fiction about it. Let's expand on these stories that we love so much. You know, it's like more fun and engaging. That is one reason why I enjoy things like cartoon conspiracy theories and movie theories. And sometimes it's right. That is one thing that you can't forget. Sometimes that stuff is right.
The sense that hackers mean when they say they write code. When Sasha stands up and waves his arms and draws what he calls the dirty pictures, he initiates you into a code, a vocabulary with very defined rules and quick to learn, and then they're like tinker toys. Once you know the rules of the connectivity, then you can sit down like a child and begin to stick these things together. Well, what would this be like? And what would this be like? And does God allow this? Or does this break the rules? And so forth. The DNA is like that. Human language is like that. Human body language is like that. Machines communicate like this. In fact, this is a bridge which connects us. This is the great overarching bridge which will connect us to the machines, that they, like us, are commanded by language. And so this realization that everything is code, and code moving on many levels, is, I think, a further... It's more primary than the perception.
Would it not be fair to say, though, that, like, all things that have at least some life to it, right, communicates in some way, shape, or form, even if it is cats meowing, right? So, like, whenever you really, really break it all down, it's like kind of thing, like, imagine matter, right? The way that on a quantum mechanical level, these are all just waves. Well, doesn't all forms of language also boil down to that? So, like, maybe there really isn't much difference in, like if you understand, like, I know what I'm trying to say, I just don't have the words for it, man. I tend to do that a lot, but once I eventually come back to thinking about it or talking about it, I'll be able to finish whatever I was saying. My brain works different, and I'm super ADD and ADHD, and I have autism, so kind of a jumbled mess in my mind. But yeah, it is like think about the song Numa by Tool, right? Like it's kind of like that. It's like, in a sense, everything really is one in this perfect harmony.
Things are made of space, time, matter, and energy. That's one level below code. The code codes for space, time, matter, and energy. It's much more like we're in a simulacrum, some kind of machine environment. And in fact, I like that idea because I've always sensed, and
Well, I mean,
psychedelics have always
in a sense, human beings are
intuition,
like machines. We're just
that
biological
the universe
machines.
is a puzzle. Life is a problem to be solved. It's a conundrum. It's not what it appears to be. There are doors. There are locks and keys. There are levels. And if you get it right, somehow it will give way to something extremely unexpected. DMT is a perfect example of that. And of course, at the molecular level, it literalizes that metaphor. I mean, the DM, the molecular key, the extraneous object introduced in the front
I've only done
door
DMT about 10, 20-ish times.
receptor.
But I will say, out of all psychedelics besides ayahuasca, DMT is my favorite psychedelic.
Well,
Which, I mean, technically, ayahuasca has DMT, but you know what I mean.
If the world is code, then it can be hacked. In other words, it needn't stand still in quite the same way that it stands still in your mind if you believe in something called the laws of physics. It permits magic. Because
speaking of the laws of physics, this is one thing that I've been talking about a little bit recently. I don't like it whenever people say that old video games, like the controls for old video games, are in and of themselves bad. Like, I personally don't like most modern day video games. I just don't. But the fact that everything has to be like so smooth and like grounded in three-dimensional space and time and with our laws of physics, like that is like really like made games really fucking boring. Cause like whenever I play a video game, I'm not going in it just for a quick dopamine release. I'm trying to experience this like I experience a movie or a painting. And I want to have that experience. I want to actually like just experience it, like as much of it as I possibly can. And like, just for example, right, like there are people who were like, oh well, in Kingdom Hearts 1 I don't like how the physics are, because like whenever I jump a certain way or I do this or that, and it's like, you know, you're saying that that is a flaw of old video games like that. But I could beat your ass in those games, because I mastered those laws of physics. Isn't that one thing that video games should be about? It's just interesting how gaming has evolved. Like, these games aren't like any more or less fun than any other game in the past. They just look nicer. And that isn't what video games should just be about. Toon Quick enters into the chat and says, hey homie, nice to finally meet you. Huge fan of Terence as well. Vice versa. I hope you enjoy your time here. We're just listening to some Terence. Essentially doing like a reaction live stream. I just don't have like OBS and all the fancy stuff. One day whenever I have the capability of doing that again, I will absolutely do that. But I'm just listening to a Terence. If y'all have any input that y'all want to give, let me know in the comment box. And aside from that, I'm just going to be giving my own comments on everything, and sometimes just going into random rants. My brain is an ADHD autistic mess. It's the best way that I can describe it for people who don't know me.
Says behind the laws of physics is a deeper level. And if you can reach that deeper level, you can make changes there. Now, and this leads on to something that I wanted to say about an earlier theme, where I was talking about the legitimation of the community's intuition. It's something that we always kick around at these things, or I always bring it up in some form, is where do the hallucinations...
You know, there's this one quote by Bill Hicks where he says, you know, if you really think that drugs have done bad things for us, do me a favor to follow up on that belief. Go home, take all your music, take all your tapes, all your albums, and burn them. You know why? Because the musicians who created all that, I'm paraphrasing here, but all that art that has impacted you throughout your entire life were really high on drugs. And I think that that is one thing that a lot of people don't realize about a bunch of the art that is out there, a lot of the art out there. Even if you're just like high on sugar or something, right? Or if you consume THC or whatever else it is, then there is so much art out there that has been positively impacted by mind-altering substances. And I hate it whenever people say drugs as a blanket statement. Because the thing about drugs is the fact that all of them are different. So to put them under this blanket statement and say, oh yeah, all drugs are bad, that is so stupid. Like, that is literally stupid by definition. You are very, very ignorant, my friend. Because each individual substance does its own thing. Some are healthy, some are not healthy. Like, it's kind of like whenever it comes to vaping, right? Like, both sides are ignorant. The side that says that vaping is healthy, ignorant. People who say that vaping is unhealthy, ignorant. Because it's not about vaping. It's not about vaping at all. Vaping in and of itself is not healthy or unhealthy. It's what you're vaping. That should be common sense. Same thing goes for mind-altering substances. Like, yeah, smoking crack is bad. I think we can all agree on that, right? But what about pure concentrated CBD crystals? Just vaporizing them. Maybe once a day, maybe once a week or something, you know, just medicinally. Well, these are both drugs, but they do two completely different things. One is extremely healthy. The other one will she'll fuck up your head real quick. Lead to a premature death as well. Too Quick says, this is what got me down the rabbit hole. I used to divide and conquer words like hallucinogens and drugs or psychotics. I might be misremembering what psychotics are, but like, isn't that medication for like people with mental disorders? I've never been a fan of them, but I'm fully aware that they do help some people, and I would not want to take that away from them. But pharmaceutical pills are very, very dangerous, even for most people who think they need them. But back to this video, there's certain things that I wanted to comment on with this one. We're not really to that yet. We're about halfway through this video, but there's some stuff that I wanted to touch on whenever that explains it. It changed over to the one before that. Alright, let's try this again. My attention was in like 10 different places. All right.
Roland Fisher, who was a great psychedelic researcher with psilocybin and later retired to Majorca to be Robert Graves' next-door neighbor, coined the phrase state-bounded. This means you can't bring back, and I'm sure you all have had the experience of dreaming, being caught up in some incredible dream.
So then, like, the quote-unquote truth of most things is state-bounded if you think about it. Because it's even kind of like the aliens that we were talking about, right? Like, not like the Greys and all that, but like multidimensional beings. Is like, you really cannot prove to somebody that that exists. They have to experience it themselves. It is just like whenever people say, oh, I believe in God, but then somebody else says, yeah, but you can't really prove that God exists. Well, I had personal experience with God. Yeah, but you can't really, like, prove that. It's state-bounded.
Strange people, foreign countries, exotic costuming, the alarm goes off, and as you stagger out of bed, this is just melting like an ice cube in a blast furnace. And by the time you're out of bed and fully dressed, you have nothing, not a shred, not a hint, not a clue. It's absolutely gone. This is a state-bounded memory.
Well, that is one of the things that I always bring up to people who want to talk philosophy and just what is reality, right? It is like, why I am personally so convinced that what I think about reality is true is because, here's just one example, right? Like, let's say you dream at night. Well, in that dream, you're walking in a house, and you look around and you see pictures of stuff that happened 5 years ago. Not in real life, but in that dream 5 years ago. You experience like a whole 20 hours in that dream. You have friends. You even have a pet dog. And this has just been your whole life. But then you wake up in your bed, and then you say, oh, well, all of that was just a dream. Just a dream. How do you know this isn't? I mean, you seem pretty convinced that that was your one stable reality whenever you were asleep, right? What if they're all as real as one another? What if this really is an infinite multiverse, and that what we call dreams are actually realities within that infinite multiverse?
Chemically, what's going on is apparently short-term memory transcription is just not occurring. You're having the immediate impression of these things happen.
Too Quick says, for real, my reality here can be justified as much as our dreams feel when we are there. Yeah, I mean, that is where things like lucid dreaming become very fascinating. Because like once you realize that you're dreaming, the things that you can do.
And then it's not going to disk, so to speak. It just is lost. And the dream is not truly lost in that situation where you...
Yeah, okay, so this is where I kind of want to start talking on this. So, yeah, you don't actually forget anything. It all gets stored into your unconscious. Now, your unconscious, you can pull things from to put into your conscious mind, to put a focus on that or those things. So, there has got to be a way. Like, I've tried his method, the memory palace technique. It doesn't work for me. I mean, it probably works for some people, like it worked for him. But I haven't personally been able to like find like a sure way to like, wait, what was I talking about? Fuck. Oh, that's cannabis free. Something about dreams. What was I talking about? I'll remember in just a minute, hopefully.
Wake up and it melts away. And the proof of this, and I'm sure you all have had this experience, is then you go off about your daily business. And then there will be, and it was almost...
Oh, wait, no, I think I made my point. Yeah. Because, like, that technique works for him, but it never worked for me. But I've never, like, really been able to, like, find, like, a surefire way to, like, actually, like, remember, like, a bunch of dreams. Like, there are dreams that I can remember quite vividly, but they're ones that I've, like, talked about a lot. So I feel like dream journals are... Like, there's a good reason why people use those to remember their dreams. There's got to be plenty of other things, but that's got to be one of the best ways.
By coincidence, an image, a chance phrase, a view of a street.
Yeah, and it's also interesting how just like a word, like if somebody says like Clifford the Big Red Dog, and then the other night you had a dream that you forgot about where you were riding on top of Clifford the Big Red Dog, and y'all were like going around the town, right? So it's like even small things, which is why like a dream journal would come in handy so well, because it is like you can just keep rereading over those, and then you can just remember them, and the ones that you forget, they're already written down. Dream journals are nice. I need to get a dream journal. I'm like hyping this stuff up to myself so much. Too Quick says, as soon as you wake up in the middle of the night, write down keywords, keep a dream journal. It has helped me cache an entire dream world. Interesting. I'm certainly not like the best at lucid dreaming, but I'm certainly not the worst. One thing that I like to do whenever I lucid dream is like I'll like run, and then I'll jump, and then I'll start flying. Or sometimes I'll do like the Rasengan from Naruto or the Chidori. But I've never like been able to like create like entire worlds. Like I haven't been able to like get that good at lucid dreaming yet.
Or something, and it will cause you to remember the dream. And once you get a hook into a portion of the dream, if you then work on it, you can probably bring a lot of it out. How this works in psychedelics is if I have an insight or something that I particularly want to remember, first of all, I will say it aloud. This is strong imprinting. And then the real imprinting is to repeat it a few minutes later, and then a few minutes later again. And if you can carry it over a number of minutes to several different levels, it won't leave you. A very useful shortcut for this is a tape recorder, where if you...
Yeah, I've thought about that too as well. Like just like putting on the recorder on my phone, and then like saying my dreams, and then like have like an audio representation, because like I tried starting a series a while back, but I could never get it just right, and then fucked up shit started happening in between, but another long story. But what I wanted to do is like every single episode would be me talking about another dream that I had, and then it'd be like wrapped in like psychedelic and beautiful animations and nice editing with some music and sound effects in the background, make it all nice and neat. But unfortunately, that is a project for the future whenever I have the resources for all of that again, or yeah, maybe I don't hopefully. At this point, I don't know what the fuck's going on in life. I don't understand how I'm not dead. I just thank God every single day.
Play the tape of the trip back after the trip. You will, just a phrase spoken will set off a chain of associative recall, and you will retain it this way. But to my mind, this is one of what shamanic training must really be, is mnemonic training. That if you want to bring the stuff back, you have to train yourself to bring it back. Now, this state-bounded thing, it's important to notice. We talk about dreams are state-bounded, how psychedelic experiences are state-bounded, but what we fail to notice usually is that ordinary reality is state-bounded. I mean, if I were to ask one of you, what did you discuss with the person you had lunch with yesterday? It's probably very touch and go to actually put this.
I mean, I don't think that I have like the best memory in the world, but I do tend to remember like very like in depth of, like, if you were to ask me that, I could tell you everything that I ate yesterday, a few days ago, maybe even a week ago. My phone's on 5%. Hold on. Just going to have to... Oh, it says we're live again. Alright, well, my phone is on 5%. I have it on the charger now, but if it goes down to 4%, then we're just going to have to set the second part of this live stream for another time. Because, I mean, we only have, like, another, like, hour or two anyway, so... If we need to do that, we'll do that. But once it gets dark, then we're going to end this live stream, and then... I don't know whenever I'm doing the celebration videos, like the 3,000 and 4,000 subscriber special, because I don't want it to be something like this. I actually want it to be very well set up, or at least as well set up as I can get it. But regardless, we'll figure out what the next live stream is and what we'll be doing. Maybe it'll be something like this. Maybe it'll be a Q&A. Who knows? I think that's the fun about it all. It's like, yep, just put your hand into the hat, pull out an idea, and boom, that's the live stream. I like that particular setup.
Together. I had lunch yesterday with Richard. We discussed his television transmission system, but that was new to me and therefore easy to retain. And also, Richard and I haven't had thousands of hours of conversation together, but the person we are most familiar with is ourselves. Well, I
was actually just about to mention something about myself and my memories. I can remember things as far back as being a toddler. Like, I remember being, like, on like, hands and knees crawling and stuff. And my first memory that I ever had, like, the further back it goes from, like, being a toddler, like, the less and less I remember. But I do specifically remember being in my cradle, looked over at the TV, and it was in the back of the trailer, my grandparents' trailer, because my mom and aunt were living there at the time. And I specifically have that memory. And then I can remember stuff like being on my hands and knees, like crawling around the tables and everything, and like the chairs had like this side thing where it is like that on, and like I would like put my mouth on it. I just, oh, sorry about that. But yeah, my memories go up pretty far back. I can remember being a toddler in my crib, and like I actually remember the first time that I ever like stopped using a pacifier, because I remember pulling it out of my mouth and I looked at it, and like I was just like thinking to myself, like, what is the point of this? And I had never used it again. I also remember also have memories around that time of like me watching like Elmo's World or Barney films. Speaking of Barney, check this out. I actually have an original 1992 Barney plushie. This is my favorite design for Barney. I think that most of the other ones look absolutely atrocious, but as far as design goes, this one right here is my #1 favorite. This is the one that I wish that they would have used in like the majority of the films and series, but they didn't, so. I tell you this though, if I ever get the copyrights to Barney, oh, it's going to go back to being a family series. I'm tired of this new, I'm tired of what they did to Barney's Legacy, I really am. Especially with that new animated Barney series, what trash. But we can get into that another time. I can literally rant about Barney all day.
Works for you like this, but I am, let us say, cleaning my house, vacuuming, doing dishes, making beds, and I'm thinking, all the time, thinking. And I understand why Rome fell. I realize what I said wrong to somebody 2 weeks ago. I recall a telephone obligation that I have to fulfill. I think about things that happened years and years ago. And then the doorbell rings, and I go to the door, and there's someone there, and they say, "What are you doing?" And I say, nothing. And this is because the ordinary state of consciousness is highly state-bounded. We don't... one
The average
thing
human
these
mind is
Buddhists have
fascinating.
certainly gotten right is that attention to attention is the key to taking control of your mental life. And for most of it, it's just like a river flowing by, you know, and every once in a while we check to see if the river is still flowing by, but we don't attempt to retain it. So memory training is great psychedelic training. And of course, as I'm sure you know, there were arts of memory in the past. We are very poor memorizers because we rely on technologies to do it for us. But people in the past had all kinds of technologies for allowing them to remember things. For instance, the most common one in use in late antiquity and up through the Renaissance was the memory palace approach. This is where you think of a place, a big place preferably, a place you know well, a school, a hospital, a cathedral, a university, but big, and sit and think about it. Think about how it looks as you go through the main doors, and then what you see when you turn to the left, and what you see when you turn to the right. Learn this building until you really can command it with reasonable vividness in most situations. Then, if you want to remember something, imagine yourself walking through the front door of this building, turning
And see,
to
that
your
is
left.
where I get stuck with this particular technique. It is, I can like perfectly like imagine like a room or something. But like if I put like a Yu-Gi-Oh jigsaw puzzle in the middle of the floor, I usually don't remember specifically what I put up in there. Because at that point, it could just be like anything once I forget. Like I could walk over there and it's like a laptop playing Naruto episodes.
And there, near the water fountain, you will place an emblem of this thing you want to remember. And then you will go down the hall and around the corner, and by the fire extinguishers, you will place another emblem of the next thing you want to remember. Well, then, the act of remembering this long list of things...
About it, like, to myself, I guess I do technically, like, remember, like, a lot of stuff up in there. Like, if there's, like, sofas or couches or, like, what color the walls are and stuff, it is just always, like, specific that don't really work with this technique. I couldn't put, like, a rainbow keyboard behind the wine bar and then it still be there whenever I'm trying to remember what I put behind the wine bar.
The fire extinguishers in your mind, the emblem you placed there, will be there. Now, I know this sounds highly unworkable and unwieldy, but it actually...
It might depend on the person, or there might be like a certain way to do it that would make it easier for, if not everyone, most people.
Is extremely workable, and people like Catullus and Cicero, the great late Roman orators, were able to speak for hours on end with lists of virtues and vices and interconnecting causes and this sort of thing, because they were masters of this mnemonic memory palace technique. Well, psychedelics are a vivid... This is another one of these things, like mantras, yantras, and so forth, that works on psychedelics. You can do this. And so when you're on a psychedelic and you have an experience that you want to remember, place it in your memory palace. And the next time you come past that point in your memory palace, this thing will be there. Now, the other trick...
Would it not just be easier to, like, write it down or, like, make a live trip report, like, where you're recording it, or just, like, voice recording it, and then, like, listening to it over and over again until you don't forget? Maybe it does just depend on the person, like, how they think which method will work best for them.
Is any of you who are interested in this, the last word is The Art of Memory by Francis Yates. which is
Love the
a
name.
wonderful woman, great scholar of Renaissance magic. And the final trick is to make the image extremely vivid, so that, for instance, if you're about to give a speech to your collegium
I love this
on
example.
the 7 deadly sins, well, then one of these sins is lust. I chose the easy one because I can't remember what the other 6 are. Shows you where my problem lies. So you don't just place the word lust in the memory keeping spot. You place some vivid and shocking image. Yeats suggests the image of a nun lifting her skirt. I think this was a classically suggested one that people were taught to use. Well, then, when you come around the corner and meet the nun lifting her skirts, you think, aha, lust. That's the first, and then you go on and so forth. And book.
I guess, and again, it probably does just depend on who the person is, which techniques will work best for you. But I feel like in this instance, that is just like making like memory connections. It is kind of like, I know Emily's name from Clifford the Big Red Dog if I think Clifford. And then that references me back to everything else that I love about it. It is just like connecting those things.
Some of the most astonishing products of the medieval engraver's art are these books of what are called emblemata. Emblemata are surreal juxtapositions of things and animal parts and bodies and machines that are memory emblems, made as grotesque, surreal, and bizarre as possible in order to make them unforgettable. That was the technique. And the surrealists use this very consciously. There is something about the unexpected, the grotesque, and the surprising that is, almost by definition, memorable. And this will work very well in the psychedelic state as well.
But yeah, that is Terence McKenna's Mastering the Memory Palace Technique full tutorial. If you haven't checked that out, certainly go check it out. I guess since we're on the topic of memory, let's do this one next. This one is called How Does Memory Work? Memory Explained.
You all know how DNA is a double helix with nuclear rungs on the ladder. Well, certain molecules, especially drug molecules, can slide right in between the rungs of that ladder. And without imparting any physical deformation to the molecule, they can change its properties. In fact, this may be how psychedelic drugs work. Now, we're at the edge of known physiology, and years ago there wasn't a single atom in your body that is now in your body. The form persists, but the matter is...
The live stream went out, but we are back.
Traded in and out, except in one case. The neurons do not out. The neurons that you're born with are the neurons that you die with. So then the problem here is memory. Brick schoolhouse 65 years ago. Hey, conservatively, 7 times every molecule in your body swapped out. So where has this memory been all this time that you can pull it up with perfect clarity? Mystery of it.
Is it a mystery?
The molecule in your body has been swapped out. So where has this memory been?
In your unconscious.
all this time that you can pull it up with perfect clarity. This is a great mystery of metabolism, unsolved to this day. There are several possibilities. One possibility is that memories are not located in the body at all. Although suggesting this is no magic bullet, it raises a number of questions, probably as difficult to solve as the original question for which this was proposed as a solution.
That was beautiful
What are
said.
the other possibilities? The memories must be stored then in the non-degrading part of the body. The non-degrading, this idea